Alright, so for number 7, no word problem here, nothing too tricky, it's just straight up just graph it. Now to graph, what we want is we want it to be in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is where the y is by itself, everything else over to the right side. These two guys are not in slope-intercept form. That's alright, we just got to rewrite it. So I'm going to take the first one, 2x plus y, greater than or equal to 2. And I just need to get everything over to the right. So the 2x is on the wrong side, so I'm going to move the 2x over. And so we get y is greater than or equal to. Now, don't try to combine these. These aren't like terms. I can't say 2 minus 2x. 2 is a number, 2x is an x, so I can't combine those two. So I'm just going to rewrite it as negative 2x plus 2. You might wonder why I wrote it in that order. Well, look back over here at slope-intercept form. The x goes in the middle, the number that's by itself goes at the end. So that's why the 2 would go at the end. Let's graph it. So we said that 2 is our starting point. So I would start at 1, 2. And then the slope, right, represents how it's changing. And if you want to think of this as negative 2 over 1, so the slope on this one means that we would go down 2, down 1, 2, and over 1. Right, because, and maybe a note we can make here, is that slope, what it's telling you to do, it's telling you to go up or down, and then the number on the bottom tells you how many to go to the right. So you would go up if that number were positive, and you would go down if that number were negative. Well, so this is a negative 2, so that's why I'd go down 2 and then write 1. You notice that there's the or equal to on there, so that means that it's going to be a solid line. So our solution set includes those points that fall upon that line. And then that symbol says greater than. So when you think of greater than, you think of above. So if I wanted to shade above, it would be everything this direction. Right. And again, if I wasn't sure if that was above or not, I like to put a little hiker guy on here. Think of it like a little mountain there. And I said, well, what's above him? Well, it's not what's below his feet. If we're saying greater than, it would be above what's his head. Now, let's say you weren't sure whether that was less than or greater than. Well, just remember that the less than symbol looks like an L. L for less. Obviously, process elimination, that means the other symbol would be greater than, but also use your imagination a little bit. That also could be said that it's a G for greater. So greater than would mean shade above. Now all we have to do is we just got to take a look at the second one. So since it is a system, right, it's a group, it's more than one, so we're just graphing two inequalities on the same graph. Well, same deal, it's not in slope-intercept form, so we got to rewrite it. So we're going to subtract x from both sides. And we've got negative 2y less than negative x plus 6. And if you want to, you can think of that as a negative 1. And got to get rid of that negative 2, so we're going to divide both sides by negative 2. And so a couple of things to watch out for here. One is that recall that when we multiply or divide by a negative, we have to switch the inequality symbol, so that less than would turn into a greater than. So first thing to notice there is that we switched. That less than changed into a greater than. Second thing to be careful about here is that notice the two negatives, right? The two negatives would make a positive, so that'd be a positive 1/2 x minus 3. Makes a difference. You get the sign wrong, you end up throwing everything else off, so be really careful with that. Alright, so for the second line, I've got a y-intercept of negative 3, so 1, 2, 3. And then I got a slope of 1 over 2, so that would mean up 1 over 2. Now you notice that there's no or equal to part, so that means that it's going to be a broken line. As far as my shading, that says greater than, so greater than would be above. Again, if I had my little hiker guy on here, and I said what's above, well, above would be everything above his head here. So we're going to shade above the line. And then what we're looking for is where the shading overlaps one another. Well, so our solution set would be this area here, where the shading overlaps or crosses over each other. So we would darken in that area right there. Obviously, I've got colors to do that. If you're doing that with pencil, maybe lightly shade here and lightly shade here, and then go back in a little bit darker over that area. But it should stand out in some way, the area that they cross over each other. All right, so go ahead and try number 7. All right, so let's check what you got for number 7. Those should have been your 2 inequalities. Y greater than negative 2/3 x plus 1, y greater than or equal to 1/3 x minus 2, and then you should have a graph that looks like that. All right, so that finishes up number 7, so let's go ahead and move on to number 8.